Hello, I'm Odin, and today I'm going to make something that a lot of you have asked for a very long time. I'm going to make my very own lightsaber. As I record this, the program Obi-Wan Kenobi just finished, but I was wanting to make a lightsaber, and not just because everyone's always asked me to make a lightsaber, because I always say, hey, I made one of those before on Beyond Geek. And of course, I've also made my own Lego lightsaber, much the same way. But I wanted to make another new one that would be mine, and then set it up so maybe one of you could win it. I have a small collection of pipes, and a parts box full of smaller bits and pieces. My plan for this build is to see what I have on hand and to make my own lightsaber from these found objects and parts that I've collected over the years. Some of these pieces go back to the first Smosh episode where I made some custom lightsabers. And other pieces are from the Beyond Geek builds where I made 3 or 4 more sabers. It's funny, I still like these. Actually, this one's pretty good. So I'm thinking if I do that, so keep this part this size, sink that into, I mean, it's a blade builders, but whatever, right? Sink that into it because that's a good lightsaber shaped piece, because it is. I'll have to grind this open and a little bit, and then this will fit through that part. So now I've got a step down, and then I'd like to just kind of build it up again. So make it lightsaber length, and then take another bit of pipe on the top end, and then maybe cut this down. So if I do just a piece, either all the way around or partly around, and it has that little shield that pops up, I can attach that to the top. It can just stay nice and chrome. So let me grind some of these parts down so they fit together a little better. One of the big things that I want to do is to make sure I don't have any burrs or sharp points that will scratch the green aluminum tube. And then there is this part that I talked about earlier. It's a tightening ring from a swimming pool skimming net. It's part of the extendable pole mechanism. I need to keep an eye out for more of these at garage sales. They're basically long pieces of telescoping aluminum tubes with interesting fittings. Will this fit inside of this? I know I'll need a speaker grill so the sound effects can be heard. And I need to make the opening in the blade builder's part bigger. That's what I want. So I can drill that out, which is totally safe to do, and get it so it fits. I'm going to use a 1 3/8 inch Forstner bit to drill out the lightsaber end piece. And I go real slow and careful with the drill press because I really don't need the plastic part to snag and tear itself up. I also sand down what I want to use as a speaker grill. It just needs to be a little rounder and a little smaller. And what a surprise, the metal is getting hot. This inflator does help cool the metal, but it's still warm. I have all the pieces fitting together, and I am liking the way the base is starting to look. I also have a rubber ring from an old tripod that fits over the green tube. Just a little bit of pipe under it. Not like the length of my previous lightsaber build, and I am looking to cut the green tube to a similar length. And I want more silver pipe over the top of the rubber ring. I mark my cut lines, and the chrome drain pipe fits over the silver pipe. What I want to do is going to work. I cut down the green pipe with a tube cutter, deburr, always deburr the pipes, and cut the silver pipe to length. I have the end of an old flashlight that I want to use as the emitter. Now this is the part that you unscrew from the flashlight to change batteries. I've removed the clicker switch and the rubber button cover. But the hole is still a little too small for the 1-inch polycarbonate blade. I wrap the part in leather so my vise won't scratch the finish, and carefully, dangerously, drill out the center of this part so a 1-inch blade can pass through. I use my rotary tool on the green pipe so the emitter will fit, and fit the rest of the parts together again. I frequently check the look and the fit of the different pieces as I build them. particularly while I'm making it all up as I go. I make a cardstock pattern for the shield shape. It's sort of a sine wave pattern when flat, sort of. And I trace that pattern onto the pipe and then use a fiberglass cutoff wheel to roughly cut out the shape. I'm not even close to my trace line right now because I'm going to sand and grind it right on down to the cut line, smoothing everything out. I was happy to see that the pipe is made of brass, so it has a great color on the inside. I also have a black rubber part that I want to use on the bottom of the shield. The chrome pipe is larger than the silver pipe, so I cut a couple of shims and put them inside of the chrome pipe to help them fit. Alrighty, sweet. So that's a good tight fit and what I want. I'm not as worried about this blade shield falling off, but I still need to put some set screws in it, which is okay. That's not a big deal. That was expected. Yeah, I think I'm pretty much ready to start drilling holes and tapping screws and adding little bits. I know my size for the set screws, but not what drill bit I need. Okay, Google, what size pilot hole do I use for an 8/32 screw?
Information from Fastener Superstore.
A number 26. All right. I drill my pilot hole through both aluminum pipes and through both sides. And then I can tap each hole with my 8/32 tap and insert the set screws that'll hold the pipes together and possibly hold some of the electronics inside of the saber. And then I do that in multiple places with many screws all over the project. An additional detail I really wanted is the heatsink box on the side of the saber. And I also added details to the heatsink, just a couple of brass washers and some rivets. This will fit just off-center near the emitter. I still need to drill another hole and tap that hole and attach the part. So I've got this bit put on, which I don't know what that's supposed to be on a lightsaber. That could be whatever. It's a heat sink to us, right? But okay, there's two details left I want to do, and they're both functional. I really liked the early sabers, like the episode 1 and episode 2 sabers, where they had a little mushroom type thing stuck on one side that would fit into a cell phone clip. And I'm pretty darn sure that's pretty much all it was in episode 1. It was literally, they were machined to fit into these cell phone clips, and that was how the lightsabers were attached to the Jedi belts for that movie. Sources could be, but that's what I remember. That's what I wanted to do with this one. And then the other thing I got to add on is a power switch. I have to have a power switch on the outside somewhere. And I'm thinking about putting the power switch over here or maybe on this side. Yeah, I think I'll go opposite of this guy. So I'll put it here. And that way you pick it up and you got a spot for your thumb and it'll turn the saber on. Okay, that's fine. First, I'll add the cell phone clip. I cut off the extra plastic that I didn't need for the base and then installed it by replacing one of the set screws on the lower ring. So this detail part was pretty easy to do. The switch needs to pass through the tube of the saber, so I measure the diameter of it and then drill out a 12mm hole. The switch fits, I just need to put the nut on the inside so it'll be held in place. So I've got all the physical parts put on the hilt that I want. There's more that I would do to it if I could, if I knew how to run a lathe, if I owned a lathe, if I owned a metal lathe. But I'm good with this, so I'm going to stop here. Now I need to put the electronics into it. What I'm really lucky on with the electronics is I've got a friend and a patron named Sinister Props. What he does is builds lightsabers. So what he sent me was a bunch of scavenge parts left over from other projects that I'm going to be able to put into this one, which makes me pretty happy because that's kind of my style, using found objects. I have some heat transfer tape that I stick to the LED and then apply it to the heat sink. The lens sits on top of the LEDs and they're held together by the cover of the heat sink. Next, I check the battery and speaker combo. It's an 18650 rechargeable battery, but the holder will need some wires replaced so I can connect it to my project. I set up a space to solder and connect some new wires to the battery holder. Now all the connections for the biscotti board are just soldered right to the board as needed. And basically, there's main power, common ground for the blue LEDs, another ground for the white flashing LEDs, the power switch, and then there's the connections for the speaker. All of which I need to solder onto the board correctly and without shorting any of those connections. And for each LED, I'm going to need to add a 1/2 ohm 2-watt resistor. Now I need to do that because I don't want to blow out the only 3-color LED that I have on hand. All connections have heat shrink tubing over them because once this mess of wires is crammed into the saber hilt, I don't want anything to short out on me. Oh, that was still on bright. Damn it. That was still on full. I was hoping to only have it on like half. For the final test, connect the LEDs and plug the switch in and activate the saber. You don't seem very happy. At this point, I thought I had shorted something or connected something wrong. What you're not seeing is another full day of reworking the saber, only to realize the battery was low and needed to be charged. So I cut a small piece of wood that I could mount the recharge circuit to, and then cut a hole in the speaker grill to allow the micro USB cable to be plugged in. The saber will need to recharge again, at least one more time, I'm sure. While the battery charges, I cut a piece of 1-inch PVC pipe, and then I cut a bunch of slits on the inside of the pipe so I can squeeze it into a smaller diameter. I drill a hole into the side to capture one of the set screws I already have in the hilt. The plan is to shove it into the green tube, and then it'll be a stopping point for that LED heat sink. Basically, it's going to be a shelf inside of the tube. There we go. I finally got all the electronics put into the hilt. This part is finally finished. It took a lot longer than I liked because I don't build lightsabers or more electronic things often enough that it's all something I'm used to doing. I mean, I can rewire a flashlight, but there's a little more going on with this guy. But now I can move on to something that's much easier for me, and that is making the blade itself. Making a combat-ready lightsaber, it's important to use the thicker-walled polycarbonate tubes, because there's actually a couple of different styles. There's the one that has, it's an 1/8-inch wall. This is a 1-inch polycarbonate tube. Polycarbonate's the same plastic that safety goggles are made out of, so this won't shatter. It can't shatter the way the plastic is made. Problem is, I don't have a piece of that thick-walled long enough to make a lightsaber blade. I mean, it's close. I'm only, that short, but it's just short enough it won't look right. So for right now, I'm going to use the 1/16 inch, the thin-walled polycarbonate blade. So this is still polycarbonate. There's nothing wrong with this, except it's got a little more flexibility, which might actually be good. It could be less damaging to other lightsabers. So I'll be using this because I don't have a choice. And all I can do is, I guess, finish the blade. You can buy specially made lightsaber blade tips from multiple sources. All the online ones you think of probably sell, online sources for buying lightsaber parts that specialize in making lightsaber parts, probably sell some sort of lightsaber tip. What I have is actually a more generic item that I picked up from Tap Plastics. It's just, it's a hemisphere, it's 1 inch in diameter, and it's solid acrylic. And that I can just glue right onto the end. Now, one thing that I've been doing with my blades that may or may not be done with the other big name online blade makers, I've found that by putting a small bit of reflective at this side of on the flat side of the hemisphere makes the tip of the blade light up much better. I've got a couple I've already done this to. All it is a wee bit of heater tape that I've glued on. And what that does is reflects the light right back down the blade. So you end up with a really good hot spot at the base because that's where the LEDs are. And then when it hits the end of the blade, you end up with a good hot spot out on the end of the blade again because it's reflecting up here. What ends up happening is you get a dim spot right about at the 1/3 mark, but that's okay because overall it looks good and looks great on camera. So all I have to do is glue this on the end and put the diffuser in, and then I'm done. Gluing the tip on is easy. Just a little bit of solvent glue will weld the acrylic hemisphere to the polycarbonate tube. Oh, yeah, that fit really well. Oh, that's great. Okay. I'm going to give this 10-15 minutes to really get a better chance to set up. And while it's doing that, I'll cut out some cellophane. All I use to help the tube glow is layers of clear cellophane plastic wrap. This is the same stuff that you could use for gift baskets or wrapping flowers. By rolling a bunch onto a wooden dowel, it's easy to insert into the blade and then unroll it while it's inside. This will allow me to remove the wooden dowel, and then I can maximize unrolling of the plastic so it all sits up against the sides of the polycarbonate tube. I added 3 more hidden set screws just under the rubber trim piece. These can grip the base of the blade. It'll be just enough to hold the blade to the saber. And the fiberglass cutoff wheel of my rotary tool cuts the threads off the dirty red screw pretty easily. And it sits much closer to the shield and looks great. Beskar head plate. Two of the very first set screws that I added on the hilt, I don't need any more. So to plug the holes, I just super glue some rivets into them. I do like the way that looks better. It's a little tiny stupid thing, but little tiny stupid things count. I put a list of materials used for this project in the description of the video. All right, I've finally, at last, made my own lightsaber with my own design. Quiet that down, because I could. This is something actually that has been asked for many times. There's been a lot of you that said I should just make my own lightsaber. Well, you know, with the Obi-Wan series having come to a close, it seemed like the right time to do it. So, there we go. I have made my own, should be combat-ready lightsaber. If you really went to town on this thing, I'm sure you'd find some problems. But for the most part, it should be good because the entire hilt is this green pipe all the way down, right? So I've got solid green aluminum going from the speaker all the way up to the blade. I've got about 30 millimeters of blade stuck inside with some set screws to hold it in place. That should be fine. This is all really lightsaber team ever did. So I'm pretty happy with this. Now, there's a possibility that you would be happy with this as well. Well, I've got some good news for you. All you have to do is go to BeyondGeekGiveaways.com, and this is actually the grand prize. There's going to be 3 prizes total. There's going to be this lightsaber, which you just saw the construction of, and it'll be this actual lightsaber. You'll also get a chance to win the complete Skywalker saga. This is going to be the complete Blu-ray 27-disc set. This is the 4K version, and it's the only way you can get the complete saga on Blu-ray in 4K, and that's going to another lucky winner. And the third prize, in honor of the Obi-Wan series, is going to be the Blade Builder's Obi-Wan Kenobi lightsaber and the Darth Vader lightsaber. So one winner will win both of those prizes. This contest is in conjunction with my friends at Beyond Geek. So all you got to do is go to BeyondGeekGiveaways.com where you can enter to win one of 3 prizes. So lastly, I really want to thank my friends at Sinister Props. Well, my friend at Sinister Props, who gave me all the electronics to make this work. It was actually very different and very cool to work with a legitimate programmable chip. Typically when I make the lightsabers, which you've seen with my Lego lightsaber or the one I did earlier with Beyond Geek, where I'm using the Blade Builder's board in order to make the lightsabers work. That's very easy to do because it is a one thing and it's done and it only does what it does. But this one has the full flash on clash and it has programmable sounds, so which are now programmed and buried inside the hilt, so you're not really going to be able to reprogram them. But you know, thank you very much, Sinister Props, for taking care of all that and making sure that we had what we needed for a successful build. Now, you know, and I know, that I've been a lifelong Star Wars fan. Well, I'm actually older, but as long as I've known of Star Wars, I've been a fan. And you know I'm gonna be making more stuff from Star Wars as more fun stuff comes out. And there's gonna be lots of different ways that you could make a lightsaber, but this is how Odin makes. Hello, I'm Odin. And the producer of Beyond Geek is right here judging me, so if I get this wrong, I'm gonna be fired. What to do? So this will go in a lot. I kind of want to have something here to look around for what I can find. I shouldn't do this with my pole on camera a whole lot. All right. And if someone wants to win it, all you got to do is go to beyondgeek.com. Giveaways. I want to thank Chris Adalreto, Michelle Parkinson, Paul Gregowitz, and all of my Patreon supporters. Patreon members at the $5 and above level get access to my private Discord, which includes weekly games with me, prop-related chat, and early access to live streams. My Patreon support is the #1 thing that makes this show possible. If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe. Have an idea for something for me to make? Please leave a comment below. And if you make any of these projects, you can send me a picture.